Hi, I'm Eileen Neo from Group 1. I'm here to address a question. Has the internet brought about the death of newspapers and the era of freely available news and information? Is this a good thing? We first have to look at the 4 different kinds of convergences that supported the rise of the internet. Then, we will see how they lead to newspapers' decline. Whether the phenomenon is good or bad will be addressed at the end. What are the different types of convergences? There's technological, regulatory, media industry, culture, and new media experience. Do take note that I will talk about regulatory and media industry convergence as one entity later on, because they are so closely interlinked. Now, I will talk and evaluate about how cross-media experience has an effect on the newspaper industry. The cross-media experience refers to 3 things: the ability to consume information on several different media platforms and devices, a participatory media culture, and collective intelligence. First, let's examine how this first factor affects newspapers. It may cause newspapers to die due to 3 E's. It entices, empowers, and engages people easily. Think of how you can bookmark a page, zoom in and out, and even classify information with the ease of a click. It empowers readers to manipulate the digital information easily, such as copying and pasting memorable quotes. But this interesting read on the Straits Times caught my eye, and it gave a very good example or reason why the newspaper holds its own against internet and technology. Many people are unplugging technology from their lives now in favor of simpler times. Experts say that this is a common theme in urban life which has picked up momentum in the past few years. Next, the participatory culture. It refers to consumers who are encouraged to seek out new information and make new connections among dispersed media. I will be using citizen journalism to illustrate how this impacts newspapers. First, everyone can be a journalist. A Chinese microblog user was the first to report on the September 27 Shanghai metro crash complete with photos, giving his first-hand report ahead of professional journalists. News coverage that seldom make it to the newspapers can find an audience online. Readers can also participate actively in such stories covered by fellow citizens through ratings and by commenting. This is an example of the 4 characteristics of participatory culture. This news was actually covered by a resident who happened to be looking out of a window. She managed to capture the intimate moment as it was happening. This news finds an audience on the internet instantly instead of on the newspapers. Lastly, consumers have the ability to express their feelings on the story. However, the internet is inferior to newspapers in terms of the lack of regulation and anonymous users. This means that many articles cannot be verified and lack quality. Hence, it is safe to conclude that the internet will be a supplement instead of replacement for traditional newspapers. Next, let's consider collective intelligence. This concept refers to 2 points: creating common resources for mutual benefits and solving common problems. A good case study is the recent hoo-ha over SOPA, the Stop Online Piracy Act. Because of massive protests through the internet, votes on the bill will be postponed indefinitely. It is a huge victory for grassroots online organizing. Online pressure also forced Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, among other big companies, to stop supporting SOPA. Hence, collective intelligence shows the power of the internet. In this case, there are compelling reasons to believe that the internet can edge out newspapers. Why? Firstly, newspapers are traditionally considered the communication bridge between citizens and their government or authorities. However, the internet is challenging this role as seen in SOPA. The public can be rallied faster on the internet than on newspapers, leading to faster social changes. This makes the internet more attractive than newspapers. I also believe in this point. The internet is a more important media in some countries than others, which weakens the role of newspapers. I'm talking about countries where newspapers are tightly controlled by the state and people need to use the internet to question and challenge the government. To prove my point, look at Ai Weiwei, an outspoken dissident artist in China. China authorities have recently tried to slam dubious tax charges against him. His supporters have used the internet to rally support for him. Through the internet, more than $1 million was donated to him to pay off his false tax charges. He says, "I feel that this is the beginning of civil society in China." Next, we can look at regulatory and media industry convergence. Relaxed regulations allowed horizontal and vertical integration, which gave rise to large interactive multimedia and communication entities. How do these convergences and the internet lead to the death of newspapers? Firstly, multimedia giants offer attractive price and service bundling, which means a multitude of information and services are available at a low price, and hence, this takes considerable attention away from traditional newspapers. The creation and success of increasingly powerful pioneer enterprises, such as Google and Yahoo, makes it easy for users to use keyword searches to read only news that they are interested in. For example, I can type in women abuse and read hundreds of articles on it, but I can't do this with traditional newspapers. I have to flip through pages that I'm absolutely not interested in before finding articles that do interest me. We also have to consider advertising problems. There are predictions that the online ad expenditure would soon surpass the ad expenditure on print. Lack of advertisers mean that small newspaper firms would eventually die out. Also, each multimedia company are so big and expands that they span different industries and can easily gain access to information through their media arms, so reporters are no longer needed. Let's look at some evidences that show the death of newspapers may be already happening. Firstly, Britons aged between 15 and 24 spend almost 30% less time reading national newspapers once they start using the internet. According to the Newspaper Association of America, the number of people employed in the newspaper industry fell by 18% between 1990 and 2004. Philip Mayer also wrote a book, The Vanishing Newspaper, which calculates that in the first quarter of 2043, newsprint will die in America. Circulation has also been falling in many countries, such as America, Western Europe, Latin America, Australia, and New Zealand. However, newspapers are still enjoying unparalleled legitimacy and trust from the public because they prize balance and fairness, as compared to the internet. Traditional newspapers are by far the only institutions capable of hiring a large group of professionals to give accurate coverage on complicated issues such as banking, finance, law, international issues, and intellectual debates. Quoting from the editor of the Los Angeles Times, newspapers are doing the reporting in this country. Google and Yahoo aren't among those putting reporters on the street in any number. Blogs can't afford it. Regarding the advertising problem, newspapers are diversifying into different platforms to earn revenue. They should be able to strike a balance between print and online media and still allow their printed newspapers to survive. Also, in some countries, such as India, the newspaper remains more popular than the internet and broadcast media. Now, is there a free flow of information emerging from such convergences? Our argument is that it may not lead to a free flow of information, as rightly pointed out by Vincent Miller. Even though the internet does have the potential to be an infinite source of diverse voices, media industry convergence means that in reality, things are less than ideal. Corporations with massive power and influence limit the public to a narrow range of accounts or views. Lastly, let's look at technological convergence, which is about analog forms converging into the digital world. With technological convergence, the world is at your hands with your mobile phone. Technological convergence has accelerated the use of internet on the go. No more flipping of cumbersome newspapers. It is also networkable, meaning that internet users will experience news at a level that newspapers cannot provide. They are able to view text. They can also view an extensive number of videos and photos. There are also audio functions. You can talk to the editors, share your reads on your social network, and even read the stories or discuss them with others. However, the same recurrent problem of credibility surfaces again. The internet seems more suited to facilitate discussion than constantly reporting on serious issues. In conclusion, the internet has indeed affected the newspaper industry. It is another powerful form of media, but its credibility is suspect. Newspapers are still respected and considered an authoritative media. It cannot give such a wide coverage of news like online journalism can, but this is actually its strength. Because it is so organized and limited, it ensures that people are informed about news that really matter. The internet, on the other hand, is a massive database which may confuse people. With strong and established regulations that have worked for centuries, the print media is also considered an important and responsible tool to any society. It supports the proper work of a government, which is to ensure that people understand and support policies, builds national unity, and also acts as the people's moral guardian. I believe that the death of newspapers and a world ruled by the internet is undesirable in many ways. The internet tolerates anonymity, and users have no incentive to care about responsibilities that newspapers have taken on. I give an example. An Al-Qaeda-linked group in Iraq kidnapped and beheaded an American contractor called Nick Berg. The video was already circulating freely and widely on the internet. Despite this, most newspaper networks decided to report the news without broadcasting the gruesome video. By doing so, it would serve the terrorists' objective of sparking public fear and increasing public opposition to continued US presence in Iraq. For this, the networks actually earned praises for their responsible actions. Lastly, the internet is interactive and entertaining. That's why many are drawn to it. But this may lead to a dumbed-down culture where entertainment and lifestyle news rule the day. There's no incentive to cover crucial news since the internet has many content competing for our attention. Hence, this promotes short attention spans. This means that to grab attention, non-serious news will prevail on the internet and sensationalizing of news will be commonplace. We have reached the end of the presentation. We hope that we have presented an insightful presentation and hope you have benefited from this. Thank you.